Alright, welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to stamp out a waterfall, a moon, onto some dark paper here. This one happens to be an 80-pound Stardream Lapis Lazuli. Has a nice little shimmer to it. You can go with any kind of, I would say, medium to dark paper. You can even do it on black, maybe. I don't know. It depends what type of black. You know, you'd have to have some kind of a black ink that would show up on top of it, but you can go pretty dark. I mean, even if I stamp black on this, this is a pretty dark paper to begin with, but this one happens to have that kind of iridescence to it, so you'll have the impression showing. So just kind of, if you're curious about it, you can do a test print on one side and see if your inks have enough contrast for that to show. Pigment inks tend to be a little bit thicker, or a lot thicker than dye-based inks, so they sit on the surface a little bit more, so I think you can get a little bit of a darker impression off of that. So I happen to be using the Brilliance pads. They dry a little bit faster than your other types of pads. The Star Dreams, they are sealed to an extent, and some inks just don't dry on them very well, but you can also heat set, okay? Alright, so that being said, I've been doing this thing that I call blocking out, okay? And that's just using some, in my case, it's white pigment ink, to block out areas of the paper, okay, that I want lighting or some sort of foggy type of look to appear. And I find that it's kind of nice just to do it ahead of time and really not have to worry about it a little bit later. You know, after you stamp your impressions, sometimes your impressions are a little bit moist, so if I try to apply white ink over the top of it, sometimes it might be kind of picking up some of that wet impression that's still on the paper. But like I said, you can try it either way. Either way should work. Okay, so if I'm blocking out here, I'm going to get kind of an idea of where I'm going to stamp this out. And for me, I've thought, I haven't done it yet with a waterfall, but I thought blocking out would be perfect for a waterfall type of situation. I've been doing it for clouds, but one of the things about that churning water at the base of a waterfall, it almost is like a cloud, right? It's kind of moisture in the air, you have light hitting it, it's kind of reflective, and that would be perfect for these two areas. This one happens to be on the this Cascading Falls area. This is, what was the name of this? This is Brook Falls, okay? Couldn't remember the name of it briefly. Okay, so I'm just getting kind of the general idea of where those two falls will be, and they'll be about in these two areas right here. You don't have to pinpoint it exactly, okay? But it'll be somewhere like that, okay? Alright, now one of the nice things about this is that this kind of blocking out technique, or fogging, or you can call it whatever you want, is that you don't have to, it doesn't have to be perfect at all, okay? Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of, this is going to be the base of the top fall area, and this will be the base falls right here, okay? So, see, I'm just kind of getting the general area of it. I want to spread it around a little bit. Okay, this is already pretty dry on here. Yeah, that Brilliance ink, it's kind of designed to dry fairly quickly on porous cardstocks, but also able to dry on non-porous surfaces. The drying time just depends. I mean, it dries at different rates on different types of surfaces. All right, so adding this down, the more you add, the more opaque it gets. When you add a little bit, it's very translucent, if not, barely visible. All right, so going like that, there's some rocks around in this area too, so let's do a little bit of lighting on those as well. You just have to get the general area. If you go, if I put some, here or there and it doesn't hit it, my designs are tonal, okay? They're not linear, so you have a lot of volume in here, and there's a lot of solids, midtones, and light tones usually in Stampscapes imagery. They're not kind of more outline based, where you as the stamper have to fill in so much of the information that was not included. So that makes for this a lot more user-friendly. I do that so that you have a lot of tonal gradations and you don't have to kind of volumize everything and texturize, kind of outline designs that we're missing. So when it comes to this, it makes this super easy for me. In this blocking out process. I haven't done this before until recently. Okay, so see, that's the general gist of it right there, okay? Now, if you want to add some more later, you can. You can always add, you can always make your impression and think, oh, I should have added more white here or there. You can do it over the top of your impression as well. I just think that this is a lot of fun doing it like this. Okay, now where else can you do it? If we're having a moon up here, you can kind of, get the general area of the moon. Okay, you can go like this. If this is just a raw piece of rubber, you can put your finger there and you can kind of, aim it and figure out where it's going to go. Go like this, right here. It doesn't have to be a perfectly, uniform application of that. And then, up in the sky, I like to have these little streaky types of things. I did a Stampscaping 101 kind of mini-series of a complete lesson on I talk about kind of adding these little streaks in here of color. This one's adding streaks using just white paint, but it's the same concept. Okay. A little bit of cloud formations below. Now that is not some kind of perfect application right here, as you can see. But neither, again, do I think I need to be perfect at all. You can go like this, if you want to. Don't do that, though. I'm just showing you that you can, with something like this. It's just, I don't know, it's a very user-friendly type of process that I'm finding. And I hadn't been doing this a long time. Like I said, I just started doing it. The foils taught me a lot, working with, a kind of a temperamental type of surface where things aren't drying very fast. You have to use kind of specialty types of inks, and my, technique or process, you can apply some of those things you've learned with a certain type of surface and apply it to other types of media surface combinations. Okay, so this is stamping Eerie Moon. I inked it up. This one happens to be a Graphite Black. They have, I think, 3 different blacks that are all a little bit different. They kind of have a different shine to them. They reflect different colors. I only have the one. I'll have to pick up some more of these at some point in time. Some different colors. Okay, so I am getting a pretty good, pressure on this. I'm going from left to right. Okay. Alright, and there we have it. You see that, where that white was in there? So that's why I was saying you don't have to be real careful about your placement. I was just blotching it, like there might have been a blotch there, but it gets covered up by the black part. But you see that white that was laid down already inherently? See how it's reflecting the moonlight right there. Okay, so let's, hopefully, that the Brook Falls will come out just as good in terms of my impression. I think I applied too much ink on here. I can never tell how much ink is on this pigment pad. Sometimes it feels like I have to re-ink it all the time. Just because it is such thick ink, and when you use it, you're using a lot of it because it's so thick. A lot of it comes off the pad, but I don't know. Maybe my pad was just super dry. Actually, it was. My pad was completely dry, so maybe I was just re-inking my initial, few impressions off of it every time until the pad got, whatever, super saturated. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Just kind of look at it and see if it's glistening, you know, in every area, and if it looks fairly uniform to you. All right, so I'm going like so. All right, now stamps with a lot of surface area, you know, use left, right, center, top, bottom pressure. Okay, don't just go like this and then pull it off and then miss this entire area. You want to apply pressure. See how I'm kind of moving about like that? I mean, I might be overdoing it. It's kind of thicker ink, you know. I mean, it's coming off of the stamp a little bit more, so, you know, sometimes you don't have to press as hard or as thoroughly. Okay, so there we have it with the background lighting. But see what that background lighting did in there inherently? See, I have it on the rocks like that. Otherwise, it'd be all this color right over here. But, you know, you just pre-tone it, and then you don't have to go back in here and apply like white over the top of it. But I think I would like some more kind of misty white over the top of these rocks. So it's under the impression, but then we'll also put it over the impression, which will give it a little bit more kind of body and volume to that lighting at least. Okay, so when you're doing this type of thing, you know, everyone's naturally, you know, a lot of people are, or I don't know, if not everyone, you're focused on the imagery, you know, when you're stamping. Okay, but what I'm trying to do on something like this is kind of the star of the scene is more of the white pigment ink. Okay, it's more of the mist and kind of the atmosphere of the scene. It's something that unifies everything. It's not something that we're thinking about maybe consciously, you know, or visually when we're looking at it, but I think we can feel it. You know, it's a type of atmosphere to it. Okay, so let's do something right here too. Do you see how this eerie moon stops, and we have this gap in between? Okay, this is really easy. You just go back in with some black pigment ink like this. Okay. 100% cotton ball. I say that because I don't have any luck with the synthetic ones. I mention this all the time, but some people are, you know, kind of tuning in for the first time to the channel. Cotton and kind of natural fibers absorb ink and transfer it very well, where synthetics kind of wick moisture. So you kind of have to kind of fight with the media. I don't like fighting with my medium. You just want to be able to kind of make whatever expression you want to make. Okay, see I'm adding this down like that. I added more than I thought I was going to. There's a thicker slathering on here. Like I said, I'm kind of getting used to my pad. Actually, I'm used to my pad being very dry, and I inked it up once, and it was like, oh, okay, that must have been the point when it was no longer, you know, I no longer needed to ink it up every time. But this one ink is going a long way. I think I'm going to have to add a little bit more, you know, like that, just to even it out, because it is really thick over there. Okay, so when you're doing something like this, just like with adding dye-based inks on like white cardstock or something like that, concentrate in an area like this and really blend it in. See, I'm just working one little area, and that way I get a nice transition. If you're going like this around on a card, it's going to look like this. Okay? So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of staying in an area like this and tapping it around and blending it in. Okay? Like that. And that's what's going on here, okay? Alright, so if I kind of put a little bit of a vignette or a lot of a vignette, it strengthens the interior lighting of a scene. It focuses the lighting in here. And also, when you take an area one step darker, what happens is by contrast, everything else in here seems one step lighter, okay? See how much lighter that seems to be getting? And I'm not adding light to it, I'm just making the area next to it darker. Alright, so see how that rock really stands out? Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Our moon's standing out pretty good. There's a certain mood to this, isn't there, with that blue paper. Alright, now let's heat set this a little bit. You don't need to dry it completely. But let's do a test right here. I think it is dry completely. I don't know. I'm not going to go like this across there to test, but it feels pretty dry. All right, let me take my cotton ball. I'm going to use my. I'm thinking about, I was thinking about adding a little bit of like silver on here. What do you think? Maybe silver and white. My inclination is just to use the white, but I've been using that silver too, and I thought, let's try that out. Blue, silver, and white make a really nice color combination. Okay, now the silver, I think, on the Lapis Lazuli is going to look like a lighter color. Okay, if you did it on white, it would be dark. All right, but on Lapis Lazuli, I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks lighter. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm adding this at the base of the waterfalls, okay? I'm going to try to show you on camera here what this looks like. That looks pretty cool. There's a real shimmer to this. This is Starlite Silver, and it's real silver looking. It's a really thick silver. All right, now let's add a little bit around our silver moon. How about that? I'll put it right over the top of it. I'm not going to end just with that. This is going to be like a base layer to my white. But let me see if you can see this at all. In terms of the reflective quality. Okay, so we have that. All right, so that's more white in there, but can you see it? Yeah, actually, you can see that shimmer right there, right? And see around the moon. See how it's really reflective of light like that, okay? See that? Yeah, you can really see it in there. You can see where I didn't add it right in here. Okay, so I think that's going to provide a really great base layer for white, okay? I mean, you can leave it like that, but I think going with white on top of that will give it a little bit more body. All right, so that was see, I have my kind of used cotton balls here. Why not just keep them, I don't know. These things are so cheap anyways. I think this gigantic bag was like 99 cents. Don't put a comment, wait, where'd you get the cotton balls? I don't know, I just picked it up at some store. They're not even a name brand. Mine are they're not even, I think if you get, I don't know, I'm guessing like the name brands will be a little bit more smooth. Mine are kind of clumpy and kind of irregular. I think that's why they were so cheap. But do look for the 100% cotton, okay? Like I said, I've used the other ones, and they feel softer, but they wick moisture, which makes sense in terms of kind of their chemistry. Okay, it's hard to tell if you have any ink on these brand new ones like this if you're using white. Okay, blot it off a few times. Let me test it right back here. Okay, now see my pad isn't super juicy. I just realized I do have a ringer for this, and I do need to apply it. It's getting a little bit too dry for me. All right, as I'm applying this cotton ball is really falling apart. Okay, let's see here. I gotta just layer this right over the top of the silver. You can do kind of a thinner coat, you know. You can have. I'm not doing an opaque application of this white ink, okay? It's going to be translucent, meaning the colors and inks that I apply underneath it will show through to some extent. You know, to what degree just depends on, you know, how much you apply, okay? All right, so let's do a little bit of this up on that top waterfall too. Now, white pigment ink tends to dry a little bit darker, so I tend to add a little bit more than I think I need, just because when it dries dark, okay? All right, let's have it picking up a lot of that moonlight, okay? So what I do is I kind of add a little bit more, and then as I move into the darkness, I'd use a little bit less tapping so it dissipates, okay? You don't want to go with a hard application in the darker areas, okay? All right, let's add some around our moon. So see, that doesn't have a nice atmosphere to it, capturing that lighting like that. Look at that. See that reflective type of quality of the silver showing through? Where I added more of the white right here, there's less of that reflective nature, but it just kind of adds that little extra, I think, that silver in there. I mean, it's real subtle. And if someone's just looking at it like this, okay, and it's not reflecting too much light, you're not going to notice it. But if they kind of tilt it, you know, they're probably just going to think it's white. Look at that perimeter like that really reflect. It kind of comes to life a little bit more. And, you know, sometimes when you're doing these things, it's about those subtle little details. I mean, it doesn't take that much extra time either. I mean, you can apply that, you know, that silver ink at, you know, I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes maybe? Okay, so that is that. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for a little bleed-proof white. I tend to use it a lot in my videos for stars and snow, but, I mean, for things like splashing waves, crashing on rocks, and here, the base of a waterfall, it's really a fantastic little touch. And again, it takes so little time. Okay, this is blade-proof white. You can use all kinds of things, but you know, a bottle of this, it can really last you a long time. I don't know, a decade. You know, for I don't know. At the time, it was like $7, $8. You know, and I mean, it's not just for scenes. I mean, you can do this on anything. You know, a good splatter is a really great texture for all kinds of things. You can be doing like a happy birthday or something like that, or, you know, Merry Christmas, and just splatter across there. And I don't know, it just makes for kind of an exciting visual dynamic. Okay. All right, so I'm going to be careful not to splatter everything, because I just want it kind of focused down here. So when I do this, I'm just going to be letting go of a couple bristles at a time. I'll go couple, three, couple, three, couple, three. So I tend to recock my finger, okay? All right, so let's see how this goes. Okay, so I turn it in the direction that's, you know, the most conducive for this. You have to kind of figure out which way the paint is coming off of the brush, and I don't know, it tends to do it differently every time. Every time I use it, not with every release of this. Like, I splattered up there a little bit too high that first time, but you know, I got it. Kind of, you know, now it went that way. You know, so I just kind of get the gist of it, and, you know, figure it out. All right, so I think that's enough. I don't know. I didn't go too extreme, but look at this right down here. Doesn't that make for a great texture? Look at that right there. I mean, it It makes that little waterfall come alive to me. Now, one of the things that I would often do, practically all the time, is I would take a white paint pen and I would add little highlights in here. But to me, the highlights are kind of established with that really soft lighting in there, so with the blocking out. So I don't think I need to do that. Looks like I'm picking up some of that pigment ink around here where I didn't dry it. Let's go back in there with a little bit of that black right over here. That was where I did that thick slathering. But no big deal, right? You just kind of reapply it in these areas, like so. Okay. And that it doesn't dry instantly, that's to your benefit, because if it dried instantly like that, and it's like stays on or something like that, you can't move it around, okay? This makes it easier to blend in, so there's always that trade-off. We do want things to dry, but if it dries really fast, then you can't manipulate it as much. All right, so let's just kind of finish this off. Let's go with a little hanging branch, maybe. Something like this. This one's just called Leaves. And, I mean, you could go with white on here. You can go with silver impressions on dark. I'm just going to stay with the dark theme here. And let's see if we can't make that moon stand out even more. Okay. I often like having things go right in front of it. Okay. And we're just going with the Graphite Black again. Okay. And we'll come down here. A little overhanging branch. Okay, look at that. It covers the moon like that, but I think it, you know, they work hand in hand. They enhance each other. The moon in the background makes the leaves stand out even more closer to us. And the leaves over the front of the moon make the moon seem even lighter by contrast. Okay. Like that. I have a lot of overhanging trees like that. And why not just use the same thing? Let's keep it really simple here, okay? It's an overhanging bush, but then you can also just make it kind of in the foreground as little bushes or something like that, or, you know, another part of the tree. See that right there? All right, so anyway, this has been a fun piece. I've always wanted to try the blocking out on for a waterfall scene and seeing how that worked. I think I would go with even a little bit, you know, even a little bit lighter the next time and just test it out. But fun little scene like this. I think, okay, that we added the silver in it there. I think you can mat it off with, oh, there's, I keep going back this, but here's the silver foil. And a little bit of a white border like this would look really great. Having a little tiny white border like that, I think would pick up the splashes down here and the lightness of the scene, and then you can have this like that. Would that make for a pretty exciting kind of card? Or I don't think I have any cut silver. No, here's a silver Stardream. Okay, this is the iridescent silver. I think this would be a great choice too. So you can have something, say that's silver like that, but maybe the silver iridescence would pick up a little bit more of the silver. Look at that glow in the water. Okay, so a really quick and easy scene. Fun to do. Little test on the blocking out. And I don't know. It seems like a good technique to employ in the future. Look at it. That little, Brilliance Black. I keep putting my finger in it right there. I can heat set this and it'll go away, but I think I'll just let this air dry. And this will set up. This is not like foil, okay? I mean, heat setting down there, I mean, it took all of, a few seconds to just heat set it and it was completely dry, so. This right over here, I happen to get that really big slathering initially, so that's why that's kind of still a little bit wet. But this will dry in, I don't know, probably half an hour or something like that. All right, so Silver Stardream, Moonlit Waterfall. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop us a note in the comment section. If you like this video channel, please hit the like button.